Thanks, Lynn, for making the introduction and the invitation today. I really appreciate it, and for your support of our organization. Just really excited to just introduce you to what we're doing. I think it's unique, and hopefully you'll learn something today. So please ask questions as we go. So I want to start by telling you about my friend April. So April is a survivor of human trafficking. She was trapped in the commercial sex industry for about 7 years before she finally escaped, when she pleaded in front of a judge to put her into treatment instead of putting her back on the streets, because she knew if she went back on the streets that she was going to die. So thankfully the judge did, and after 3 years of residential addiction treatment and trauma counseling, April was ready to take the next step. And she went out in our local community and she started looking for a job. But as you can imagine, April was rejected again and again and again. And she started to wonder if she was ever really going to be able to rebuild her life. So we are Freedom a la carte, and we empower survivors of sex trafficking and exploitation to build new lives that are free and where they can become self-sufficient. So what is sex trafficking? I know that before I learned more about what's happening in the world, my perception came from television and movies, and I thought of the movie Taken and thought that women were snatched and stolen and handcuffed and taken to another country, and that these things happened abroad and didn't happen here. And I really didn't understand what was happening, that it's really women being manipulated into this life in the sex industry. And I'll be brief. I don't know how much you want to know about that. I could talk for hours about this subject and what happens, but just to give you an idea of a situation that might happen here locally, is a young woman who's very vulnerable, and she might be experimenting with recreational drugs. Okay, she might go to a party and meets a guy that's a little bit older and shows interest in her and tells her how beautiful she is, and he wants to take care of her, and they start this relationship where he's just making her feel fabulous, getting her nails done, pouring attention on her. She continues to draw toward him and away from her family and her friends, so she starts to become isolated. He introduces her to more severe drugs, maybe some crack cocaine and some heroin. She gets addicted, right? She's ready to do about anything to maintain those drugs. In the meantime, she's living with him, he's feeding her, he's providing the drugs, and all of a sudden he says, you know what? The free ride's over. Now I need you to go do this because you owe me, and if you want those drugs, you're gonna have to pay for them. And it becomes this whole grooming process. There's actually a book that you can buy on Amazon that teaches you how to be a pimp and how to groom somebody for this industry. So that's just a little introduction into kind of an idea of how this might happen to a young woman here locally. So on a global scale, there's about 4.8 million people in commercial sex trade around the globe, okay? That's about a $150 billion industry. 99% of those in the commercial sex industry are female. 3/4 of those in the United States that are trafficked are sex trafficked as opposed to labor trafficked. And in Ohio, we're the 4th largest state in the nation for reported cases of human trafficking. Now, do you guys have any idea why you think that might be the case? Mm-hmm.
My guess would be because of the interstates that pass through Ohio.
Exactly. That's a big thing. There's a few other factors that I think some people might consider.
The Arnold,
Mm-hmm.
the Muirfield Memorial,
Mm-hmm.
the Quarter Horse Congress.
Mm-hmm.
We have big things that happen here that
Big
draw
events
people
that
in
happen.
from other places.
Absolutely. Anything else that you guys think of? So the other thing that I think puts us a little bit higher than others is I think our state's doing an amazing job of creating awareness and talking about this issue. And this is reported cases. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of getting the word out to victims, and if they're calling into the hotline, then they're recorded as a number. And so it's kind of a good news, bad news, it's combined. I think that we're ranked among the highest.
What is the highest?
Oh know what? I don't know.
I think it's Nevada.
Nevada. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I should have that on top of my head. Yeah. So locally, what's happening here? Right here in Franklin County, there's about 1,200 to 1,500 arrests each year for prostitution, loitering, or solicitation. Of those, 92% are identified as victims that have been sex trafficked, and they're trafficked since the average age of 13. Okay. So what we did is that how can we support these women, right? So our founders started kind of collaborating around this program called Catch Court. Is anyone familiar with Catch Court in the room? Okay, so Catch Court is a specialty docket right here in Franklin County, founded by Judge Paul Herbert, who lives up in Dublin. And Catch stands for Changing Actions to Change Habits. And what he saw was these women coming to him that actually looked like victims of domestic violence, and their record showed that they were in front of him for prostitution or solicitation. And he thought, wait, like what's going on here? Dug deeper and realized that these women were victims and not criminals, and what can we do to help them? So this is a 2-year probationary program. So a woman is identified within the court system as a victim. She can opt into this program. If she completes it, her record's expunged. But in that 2 years, she goes to residential treatment for addiction recovery. She gets trauma counseling. She gets lots and lots of program support. And we're the ones that kind of come in and wrap our arms around them and do everything we can to help them succeed in that program. From picking them up from jail and taking them to their treatment facility. Because you know what? The treatment facility doesn't offer transportation, neither does the court. So how are they gonna get there? So that's what we do. And in that, we bring them a packet of clothes, boots, hats, hygiene items, because you know, what they leave jail in is what they were arrested in. And a lot of times it's not something they want to stay in, right? And we continue to meet those needs that they have. And the other great thing that we do that helps these women, I think, be successful is a one-on-one mentorship program. So we train women in the community to be a mentor to one of the women in the program. And she's just a friend. You know, these women have not experienced healthy relationships in their life. People have let them down and used them and abused them in multiple ways, and they really just need to learn that there's people out there that can be a friend to them and to model what that looks like back, you know. And so that really helps encourage them in their journey and help them know that they can succeed. The next one.
I do have a question.
Yes.
These women are usually controlled by a man.
Yes. Not always. Sometimes it's a woman, and I'll
Okay,
even
somebody.
Yes.
They're being controlled by somebody.
Yes.
So I'm assuming when you take them from the courthouse to this residence, this is in secret where they're going so that this controlling person can't find them?
So that's interesting, because you would think that, oh my gosh, they're gonna come get them, and it's,
Yes.
in most cases, the very, very rare does a trafficker come after them in that aggressive of a manner. They are off to the next vulnerable person. It's
Oh, okay.
a business, right? So instead of taking your time and effort to go track down this one person out of your group of however many you have in your little tribe, you know, they're off, picking up, finding somebody else. Yep.
Throw away the trash and pick up fresh.
Pick up trash. But I will tell you that the women, you know, like I tried to explain, there's a relationship at the beginning of this, right? In most cases.
Okay.
And so it's usually the woman that gets this, what they call trauma bond, where they really want to go back to that person, and there's this love that they're dealing with, and it's the woman that might end up going back to the trafficker, not usually the trafficker coming to her. It's a good question. These are just some stats based on the women that we serve within our organization. Look at that first one. 1/3 of the women are prostituted before the age of 15 and as young as 3 years old. 3 years old. Picture that. That's a parent putting that child on the porch step and indicating that she's for sale. Yeah, it's really sad. Most of them are sexually abused as a child. Half of them have traumatic brain injury. They've been in jail multiple times, right? A lot of them have felonies. They have mental health issues. They've also been in treatment several times. It doesn't always happen on that first attempt, and it might take multiple attempts. And most of them have children. So if we can help mom, we can help the generations behind her. So we're working with these women, and found within Catchport that they were doing great, and they were being successful. But do you know, the Women's Fund did a study that shows that 1 in 4 women in Central Ohio are not economically self-sufficient. And we obviously know that women that have been trafficked face even more severe employment barriers. So what could we do as an organization to help, like I talked about women like April, who go out and can't get a job? What can we do to help them? Because they can't become self-sufficient and not rely on a man if they can't take care of themselves financially. So we started this Freedom a la carte. We bought a food cart on eBay for $1,200 and decided we were gonna make delicious sandwiches that were the best in Columbus and serve them up, and just to give women a job. And that's how we started. So today, it's a full workforce development program. Okay, you've experienced our food, it's a complete catering business. And it's more than just a job for these women. We don't want to just give them a job because we want to help them succeed. We could help them go get a job somewhere else. We could help them get a job at McDonald's. There's lots of places where they could just pick up a paycheck. But we're offering those soft and hard skills, right? We're taking them to the bank to open a checking account and a savings account. We're doing a budget with them the first time. We're hopping in the car and practicing driving so they can go take that driving test and then save money up to buy a car. Like, these are the things that we're teaching them. How to navigate the bus system so they can get to work. How to navigate when the kids are sick and they still need to be at work, like walking them through these situations. We also offer employment coaching, which is new this year to our program. So we're helping the women think about what's next and working with partners in the community who say, yeah, I might be interested in hiring somebody from your program, and making sure that we're training the women for those jobs. So what's our secret sauce? Like, what makes us better than everybody else? And that is that we do everything from a trauma-informed perspective. We're really making sure that we understand trauma and keep that in the forefront of what we're doing. So for instance, everything that we do comes from an empowerment and recovery lens. Are we really helping to empower these women, or are we enabling them? And that's a tough struggle, and it's kind of individual. Some things you might do for someone might empower them, and if you did that exact same thing, if you gave them help in a certain way, that might be enabling them. So we always are talking about that within the organization, making sure our place is safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. And we do drug testing to make sure that the women in the program are staying clean, because they're keeping each other safe by holding each other to those standards. We help manage emotions within the program. And the example I give is, if one of our women was working at McDonald's and she had an altercation with a customer, and they got in an argument. And then the manager came up and tried to intervene, and she turns around and cusses out the manager. What's gonna happen? She's out of there, right? She's fired. Well, we know our ladies, and we understand their trauma background. So something like that might happen. There might be an argument in the staff, or maybe even miscommunicating with a customer in a way that's not appropriate. We can pull them aside and say, hey, what's going on here? This is not normal. Let's talk about what happened and what might have triggered you, and we can help them think back onto exactly what it was. Maybe the person used a phrase that their trafficker did, and it just turned something inside that they didn't identify at the time, but we might be able to help them think through that. So those are the types of things that are happening daily within our kitchen. We foster relationships. What better place to foster relationships than in a kitchen, right? Like, for generations, women have been healing and fixing problems and growing and bonding in a kitchen. So that's so exciting. And we are supporting people through change. So change and transitions are very hard for anybody, but especially someone in recovery and with trauma. So we realized that we need to be in that through the long haul. That if you go on to the next one thing that we do, very unique here in Central Ohio, is that we're looking at these women on a long-term basis. Okay, a lot of organizations in Central Ohio are doing amazing things, but it's a program that has a start date and an end date, and once you're out of that program, you kind of lose touch with them. And we recognize this because there's limitation to their programs, right? So people were graduating from Catch Court or one of their treatment facilities and relapsing. And we thought, what can we do to help prevent that? So we extended our case management for as long as somebody needs it. So if they wanted, and we formed what we call the butterfly program. So if they've graduated from their treatment, if they're in our workforce development and transitioning out, they're a butterfly. And they get together, it's more of a peer support network. But it just has grown and grown. Started with about 40 women when it was led by volunteers. It's now up to about 100 women, and 80% of them received case management last year. So that just tells us that there are these continued needs that they need. Help getting housing. Something happens and they need help with food, so we take them to the food bank, or a food pantry, their local food pantry, whatever that might be. So those are the kinds of things we're doing. So everybody says, what's your success rate? What are you doing? So I'll show you the numbers. We serve about 200 women in our program every year. Last year was 234 women that we touched that were survivors. The last 3 years, we've had 59 women come through our workforce development program, and almost half of them transitioned into work in the community. So that's the numbers, right? But what are we really doing? What's happening in the lives of these people, these women? We're creating self-sufficient women. They are reintegrating into our community. They're retaining a job, right? They're paying their taxes. They're learning to drive. They're getting their driver's license. They're going to school. They're regaining custody of their kids. It's a win-win, right? It's a generational impact. If we can treat someone in this way, they're getting off government assistance. I mean, isn't that an amazing thing for the community? So that's the impact that we're having. The other question normally people ask is, how does this all work together, all these different programs? So we have these three main areas that we work. So someone in the Catch Court program might transition into our workforce development program and get a job, or they might not and just go straight to our butterfly program. So Catch Court has identified that our long-term butterfly program is so valuable that now they can't graduate from Catch unless they're integrated in our program. And so in their last phase of Catch Court, they start attending meetings and getting integrated into that program. So they would go in either one of those directions. And then from the workforce development program, they can be a butterfly. And then other agencies refer into our workforce development program. And they also are integrating and referring people to be a butterfly. So that's why this butterfly community is growing, because it's all these agencies working together to say, hey, we're going to create this special place, this long-term support for this group of women. And we've learned that we can't do everything. Like we do certain things really well, and there's other agencies doing other things. So these are just a small list of the different great organizations that we partner with. So that what we're not doing, like the furniture bank, we don't collect furniture for the women, but when they move into a new apartment, we pay the furniture bank and they go there and furnish their apartment. So back to April. Remember April from the beginning of the story? This is April today. So April did end up getting a job at Freedom a la carte. She became a kitchen supervisor, and while she was with us, she was going to Columbus State. She graduated from Columbus State and is now finishing her degree in social work at Capital University.
Wow.
She purchased her own home.
Wow.
Yeah, and she is our case manager at Freedom a la carte. Now, and she's an amazing, amazing woman, but we have so many stories like this. Yeah, we have a woman that we placed that's in a law firm downtown. We have women that are in peer support mentors around the city. They're just doing great things and integrated back into society, and that's what's making things work. So what's next for Freedom? What do we see next? Well, we need to expand our capacity, right? We need to be able to do what we're doing for more women, especially in the workforce development area. And so our goal is to open up a cafe. And we are very close to signing a lease on a property downtown, because we need to be downtown where our women, where they are and where they operate, where all their resources are. And a lot of our customers are downtown. So we're looking at property downtown. This will allow us to immediately double the number of women in our program. And as that grows, we'll be able to transition more women into the community, into sustainable jobs, right? We'll be able to diversify our funds so we're not so heavily dependent on grants. And we'll be able to use that net revenue to support programs like our case manager and our employment coach. So that, and then we're gonna create this wonderful place of our own downtown where it's a beacon of hope for survivors in the community, and a place where people like us, people like you, can come buy a sandwich and realize that not only getting a great lunch, you're paying it forward by helping someone get back on their feet. So ways that you can get engaged with our organization: you can continue to order from us. We do appreciate your support and the different ways that you've done that. So you go online. We've narrowed our focus. We realized that we do certain things really well, and less some other caterers do the other things. So just so you understand, we're a drop-off caterer. We'll come in, package it up nicely, set it up so it looks nice on your display, and then we leave and leave that to you. We specialize in breakfast, lunch, and heavy appetizers. So we'll do your cocktail hour, do a magnificent breakfast, box lunches, platter sandwiches, however you'd like those. We no longer do dinner. We just don't do that anymore. It wasn't something that we did really well, and just decided to concentrate on what we're doing well. If you go back, and you can volunteer, so you can join us as being trained to be a mentor. You can work in our kitchen. There's lots of ways that we can get you engaged. You can bring meals to Ketchport, and then you can donate. You can help support this project that we're undergoing, or you can just become a monthly donor. $50 help support one of our survivors for a month. So that is, I feel like I talked really fast today, but that's, you guys have, I didn't give you a chance to ask questions.